Have you ever been looking for something and you go to look for it, and then the fact is it was right in front of you the whole time, but you never saw it? The other day I was reminded of this. I went to the refrigerator looking for some Parmesan cheese. We were having an Italian dinner. Parmesan goes good with it. And went to the refrigerator and opened the refrigerator, and I'm looking all over. I can't find the thing of Parmesan cheese. So my typical habit, I yell, "Honey, where's the Parmesan?" It's right in the refrigerator. It's probably right in front of your face. Sure enough, as I look, there it is. But yet the first time I didn't see it. It got me thinking, how many times in life is there, reality where something is so, but yet I just don't see it the way it really is. I was thinking about the biology concerning the human eye and how God has designed it. And at the back of the retina, where the optic nerve enters into the eye, there's actually a little white spot. If you looked in, through and looked through the pupil and saw the back of the eye, you'd see this little white area in the back of the eye. And that area of the eye, it has no rods, it has no cones. It actually creates what's called a blind spot. When we look, there are two blind spots that are our eyes, but yet the brain knows what's there, so it fills that information in. Because there's something, but yet your eye actually doesn't see it. It's your brain that does it. Or have you ever been driving in a car and you look over and you look in the mirror and it looks like there's nobody beside you? Fact is, there is, because that car is sitting in a blind spot. It's there, you just don't see it in the rearview mirror or the side mirror. As I was thinking about blind spots, I was thinking that there's a lot of times in life where we just don't see things as they really are. This is exactly what happened to Jesus. In John chapter 12, there's a record in verse 36 through 40 where Jesus says, "Put your trust in the light while you have it, so that you may become sons of light." When he had finished speaking, Jesus left and hid himself from them. Even after Jesus had done all these miracles, or miraculous signs, in their presence, they still would not believe him. And then later in verse 40 it says, speaking of Isaiah, it said, "He has blinded their eyes and deadened their hearts." The reason they didn't see that Jesus was the promised Messiah right in front of them, blind spots. They couldn't see it. The reality was he was who he said he was. They couldn't see it. Blind spots. And we need to be careful because we all have blind spots. I'd like to take a couple minutes and just talk about some of the things that cause blind spots. One of the things that I was reflecting on is friendship causes blind spots. I've had so many situations where I've been working with a person or had a friend in my life that's very close. I see something, but I ignore it. I see something that's sinful. I just choose to address it. Why? My friendship with that person causes a blind spot. And as friends, we need to fight blind spots. I don't want to be the kind of person that every time I'm with people, I go around busting them or bringing their sin to their face. But I do want to be the kind of friend that's faithful and true. And it says that the wounds of a friend are faithful. And that's because I want to be the kind of person that is fighting against blind spots. That when I see something harmful, I call it out. When there is something sinful, I call it for what it is. That takes some discipline to do. In 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 4, I believe there's also a reference to another reason why we have blind spots. I believe the world is designed to blind us. It says in 2 Corinthians 4:4, "The God of this age has blinded the minds of unbelievers, so that they cannot see the light of the gospel of the glory of Christ, who is the image of God." That's another big reason why we have blind spots. If I'm always putting myself in situations that are sinful, if I choose to look at things that are wrong, I become desensitized to the evil. Been lots of studies done on this. Why was it in World War II that the whole German population followed Hitler? And many of them, even knowing the horrific things that he did, yet they chose to look the other way. They chose to be blinded because the systems of the world desensitize us to sin. It desensitizes us so that we no longer pursue holiness and righteousness and what it is to be morally upright. Pretty soon, clothing that's risque, no, that's okay. Or lifestyles that aren't appropriate, homosexuality, other things, we look the other way. We discount it. The world's systems are designed to blind us. They cause us to have blind spots. Another thing that causes blind spots is I know my own habit patterns. You know, if I'm not a smoker, and I never really have been, but I know people who smoke and they just become oblivious to the, you know, they're smoking. They become oblivious to the dangers of smoking. You know, I've always really, you know, liked to have sugary treats and candies and things like that. I discount the effects that sugar could have on my health. Or, you know, other things. You know, it could be alcohol, it could be anything. You know, I know people that, you know, smoke a little pot. Well, no big deal. Oh, really? Is that what God's Word says? Hang out with people who are pot smokers, pretty soon become desensitized to it. Blind spots, habit patterns, sinful habit patterns cause blind spots. Sin in itself causes blind spots, and the biggest sin that causes a blind spot is pride. Obadiah chapter 1 verse 3 says, "The pride of your heart has deceived you." When I'm talking about blind spots, I'm talking about deception. You're not seeing clearly. You're not seeing the Parmesan cheese that's sitting right in front of your face. You know, and I'm speaking to myself here. When I practice sin, it blinds me. And one of the biggest blinders is pride. You know, I tell myself that, oh, that's not a problem for me. Really? Really? Because my pride of my own heart deceives me. We need to be very careful and open to the pridefulness. And just be honest. We're all selfish. We're all self-centered. You know, I thought, you know, like every child born thinks the world revolves around them. Well, to some degree we grow up and we realize that's not the case, but we still want it to be that case. We still want the world to be all about us. You know, I will guarantee you, all you have to do is kind of hear something that sounds like your name. Huh? Huh? Anybody who calls out your name, first thing, it gets your attention every time. Why? Because we're just, it's the sin of pride. It's the sin of self. It's the sin of ego. And it will blind us. Deception is a form of blindness. And when you're deceived, you will not see clearly. Another sin is hate, unforgiveness, critical judgments. They blind you. I hold a critical judgment about another people. Then I begin not to see the person clearly. I begin to make up things about them. Or I only grab evidence that seems to prove the critical stories in my own brain. We make up stories. In 1 John chapter 2:11 it says, "But whoever hates his brother is in darkness." You're blind. And he walks about in the darkness and doesn't know where he's going because the darkness has blinded him. You know, hate, it blinds. There's lots of things that can blind, but in Psalm 146:7, God says, "He upholds the cause of the oppressed and gives food to the hungry. The Lord sets prisoners free. The Lord gives sight to the blind." Truth is what frees us from blindness. Having friends in my life that will speak truthfully and me being a truth seeker and open to reality is what will cause me to not have blind spots.